Hi, my name is Eric Berger, and this is part 2 of 3 videos I'm making in discussion of my new Butler Lemondrop D, Lemon J, 500 to 508 dual bore tenor trombone with a screw bell. If you watched the previous video, you know that the reason I ordered this trombone is I'm having some orthopedic problems with the thumb, and my current lead tenor is extraordinarily heavy due to my own design, and I needed to have something that would allow me to continue to play through rehabilitation and everything else. So I sold a brand new Constool George Roberts bass and a Constool alto and a copper bell euphonium and a whole bunch of other things in order to be able to purchase this instrument, which cost me $38.50. It's the most I've ever paid for a trombone. And I'm sorry if I babble and say a lot. I'm not very comfortable in front of the camera like a lot of people who make these videos. But I promised Dave Butler I would make a review of this instrument, and I'm going to try to do it justice and hopefully be informative to anyone who might be interested in purchasing one of these horns. I ordered the trombone back in mid-October and received it December 18th. There was some issues in getting the production. I think normally his turnaround is about 3 weeks. But because this was a horn he'd never built before, I think they had to custom build the slides. They had trouble getting slide tools and lacquers and I don't know what. But I very anxiously awaited its arrival and received the trombone, and I was elated. It's with the screw bell. I got the flat case. Not sure why I got that. There was a time when I was living in Europe that I spent an awful lot of time in buses and trains and airplanes back and forth from gigs where it would have been fantastic. And I don't know. I don't think I'll be playing professionally like that much anymore, but yeah, it was an option and I decided to give it a try. And also Dave said that it helped darken the tone a little bit, and that's a struggle that I have. I have a tendency to play a little hard, so anything that'll darken my sound a tad is welcome by me. It's a fascinating instrument. If you've ever owned anything in carbon fiber, you know that it's extraordinarily durable. It's interesting looking, very modern looking. This trombone's black, which is kind of cool. Apparently, I guess he paints them also, which would be fantastic. I got the nickel silver. I didn't want to pay the upcharge for the silver or the gold plate, even though it's gorgeous. I'm hoping that I don't have trouble with, I sweat really badly, and I've always had trouble with raw nickel silver, but it's usually on the neck pipe. That's where I get it bad. But if worse comes to worse, I'll put leather wraps on it. I'm going to say that you can't evaluate this trombone in the terms of your expectations for a brass trombone, which is perfect and shiny in every way, or should be anyways, because they're making it out of modern materials in a small workshop, and even though the craftsmanship is wonderful, it's not perfect, nor do I think my expectation for it to be. But I'm going to point out all the flaws anyways. Well, let me talk about how the trombone's put together. Screw bell, of course, tuning slide. I've had a couple of P-bones that I used to play in brass band gigs when we'd be doing Mardi Gras parades because the brass horns would always get damaged. And it's nickel silver braces and, of course, chrome slide. I'm having a little trouble evaluating the slide because I will admit there's a little defect on the inside of the 508 slide. Not sure what happened. Dave is quickly building me a new slide and going to send it out to me. And I'm very grateful for that. I know that he's a man who will be good on taking care of the instrument. Now, some comments. The end has a very nice pronounced nipple and rubber dot, and I like this because it's not a cap. Over on a normal trombone, they've got a nipple and then they put that rubber plug over it. It's real easy to knock those off. This plug actually goes inside an insert, and I think it's going to be very sure, won't have a tendency to come off, and would be probably pretty easy to replace. The other thing that's really interesting is, if you notice the spit valve, most water keys or spit valves are located right on this 45 angle of this crook here. On this, it's much further down to the bottom. I think this is a very wise choice, but a lot of trombone players are probably going to have an issue with it. If you notice, and I'll show you on this, right, on my conch stool, you'll see that the spit valve, and I had a Amati put in there, is right at that 45 degree. Now, if you've ever had an Amati, you know that you can't blow air through it. You need to just open the key and shake, which if you ever played in a studio or anywhere, you know that's the only way you should clear your water key anyways, and that's the only way I've ever done it. It doesn't do any good to blow air through a horn. This one is further down, so my habit of taking it at a 45 degree angle and opening the water key will not help. But I just have to find this new point, and the angle is about 15 degrees. And it's a nice big port which seals very flat. When the water key goes in there, it looks like it makes a real close to a very smooth inset in there. So I open up the water key, it doesn't open that far, but the water drains out instantaneously. Takes 2 seconds, no blowing needed. So I think that was very clever for Dave to design that water key a little lower down, and I personally, I prefer it. On the inside of this crook or bow, there's a little bit of a, what do you call it, a ridge, a reinforcement ridge. Probably gives it a little bit of structural rigidity, and you know, it can't improve the weight because this doesn't weigh anything. It doesn't weigh anything at all. The inner slide tubes, he said, are made by Kahn. They have a very minimal sleeve cut, which is the first time I saw a trombone built that way was Shire's, and it was the most wonderful slide I'd ever played. And I'm sure the slide will give me great duty. There's a little bit more of that same ridge on the tuning slide. It's a little interesting. I mean, at first you look at it, you're not sure how you feel about it. And then they've got a little brace here, which is helpful in tuning. I'm not sure the brace is needed, but most of us are used to doing this. And so I think it's very helpful to keep that kind of consistency. Positions lay where you would expect. The slide width is the same as on my conch stool, which is probably the same on a lot of trombones nowadays. Slide lock is very sure, and it's got a removable lead pipe. I think it's Edwards threaded, which I think my conch stool, I've got a couple lead pipes for that horn. I'd be anxious to try those in, so that you can probably adjust the way the horn responds with your mouthpiece. I play on a old style Giddings and Webster Bacchus. I think it's a Bacchus, yeah. And the mouthpiece seems to work pretty well with this horn. I haven't spent any time trying all the various mouthpieces with it. Now, fit and finish. There's a couple little issues that I'm going to take some pictures to show you while I talk about it. There was a kind of a heavy scratch that ran from, it looks like after, a scratch that goes on this bell ring reinforcement on the bell. Not a big deal. I noticed it. There's a dent right here on this ferrule. Not sure why it's there, but not a big deal. The one thing that does kind of bother me, and I think I'm going to have to take it to a repairman to have it fixed, one of these flanges isn't kind of set all the way, and I've already caught my shirt on it twice. I don't know how I do that, but it's just sharp enough, sticking out enough that it'll catch. But I'll get my repairman in there and maybe just smooth that, buff that out a little bit so it has less of a point, or whatever he decides to do. Response-wise, you know, when I first played this horn, I thought, well, okay, let me say this. David said before I received the horn, he says, the sound matures further away from the bell. I don't think that's actually what's going on. I think it's just because of the difference of the material. Being used to a brass instrument, you get a certain quality of acoustical feedback from the bell while you're playing. The carbon fiber responds differently. So the quality of the sound you hear from behind the horn while you're playing is vastly different. And I think for some people at first that may be disturbing. I will say, as soon as you get into a bigger room or get outside and put some air through the instrument, you don't notice it as much, but it's still a little bit of there. At first when I started playing it, I thought, gosh, this horn is leaking. It doesn't feel like it's sealing at all. I think a lot of that was because of the feedback. The quality of the sound, it sounded to me like one of those really old horns I had that the slide was worn and the slide was leaking a little bit. Now, saying that, I want to show you, and I don't think this is problematic. If you've got good compression on a slide, you should get that. Now, I've had brass slides that almost didn't move at all, and I know that the hand slide part of it is much heavier than this thing, which doesn't weigh at all. But the compression is good, so it's not, the horn's not leaking. Sure, I can plug up one end, and on the way I can blow air through the slide. That's not a problem. I think I can do that with every horn. But so, if you have one and you play one and you think, I'm not so sure about that, just realize that the quality you're hearing is a difference between the acoustical resonance of the sound coming out of your horn and the feedback you're getting from the instrument itself. It's just a whole different slot. I checked the intonation. The intonation is good. I didn't find any irregularities in any of the perspectives. I'm able to play subtones or false tones as well as I can play on my conch stool, which I can't do on every instrument. The high range is real articulate. I will say in the softer dynamics, I have to work a little harder on getting the pitch to slot or to be real accurate. I find that at a lower dynamic, it's real easy for me to push that note up and down. And if I'm playing along with somebody, that's of course not a problem, because as a good musician, you naturally make those adjustments. But I find that playing by if I put a tuner there and I play a note, boy, I can push that 15 or 20 cents sharp without any problem at all. As you get to a mezzo forte or so, it starts slotting in a lot better. Now, I don't know if that's me. It may be just a combination. It may be a difference between this mouthpiece and this horn. I'm a firm believer that every horn, you have to find the right mouthpiece that works for that you like and fit. And I'm not sure that I've got a great match here, but I recently sold almost my whole huge collection of mouthpieces, so I don't quite have the collection to go through, but I've got a local music store. I'm going to go down and try a couple other and see if they respond any differently. Sometimes it doesn't make any difference. But I suspect that it's not a horn issue, but it's just kind of an acoustical mismatch between this mouthpiece and this horn and my chops. At loud dynamics, it doesn't, the sound never breaks, which is one of the reasons why I couldn't play yellow brass horns. What I learned with that Martin Irby Green I used to play for many years, and the Bach 16 and 16Ms I had. When I get to loud dynamics, which I can play really quite loud, the tone will get really harsh, or this tone kind of breaks up a little bit, or gets too harsh, overly harsh. To me, I can't hear that sound coming from this horn, even when I'm pushing it its hardest. The sound continues to be well contained, very cylinder, it just gets loud. And that's one of the reasons on my Constool 1606, I put a real heavy red brass bell on it. It has that same effect. So in that way, it's accomplishing what I want out of an instrument. The lightweight slide, I will say first 6 or 8 hours of playing, I still, everything I was doing, going from first to fourth, I'm overshooting. Because my muscle memory on the slide has me creating a lot more force, and so I'm going beyond the positions. I'm finally starting to calm that down a little bit and getting used to it, and as I go back and forth between these two horns, I have a little bit of adjustment I have to make between going from my regular weight slide to my lightweight slide. I will say, don't ever want to play a full weight slide again. It is just unbelievable the little amount of work that's required to play this horn. And I'm talking about just from the slide technique. Is it faster? I'm not sure, because I think my hand only goes so fast. My hand. But I know that just the whole feel of it is so uniquely different. Yeah, I'll be excited to make another evaluation a year out, but right now it's just, I pick up this horn and I don't want to pick up my other trombone ever again. Is this horn perfect? I'm not sure. I'm going to find out. Is it perfect for me right now? I think so. And I'm very grateful to be able to afford it. I'm very grateful to have it in my hands. And if you watch my next video, I'm going to compare this trombone with my custom Constool 1606 slide tuning red braille modified by BAC, right? And I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison. And what I'm going to do that I haven't seen in other videos is I'm going to record the front, and I'm also going to record right here. So the camera angle will allow the camera to hear what you as a player will hear. And I think maybe it'll help you understand the difference in the acoustics. I may go back and listen to the videos and hear there's actually nothing, it's just all in my mind, but I'll be anxious to see how that comes out. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you check out my third one.